Alright, hey guys, it's been a little while now since I started doing Steven Universe content on my channel, and it's been about 5 weeks since I started reviewing Steven Universe content for my channel as well. So far I've reviewed every new episode to come out since the most recent hiatus ended with Nightmare Hospital. However, I have not reviewed any episodes earlier than that, so I decided to go back and review Steven Universe from the very beginning, starting with the first episode entitled Gem Glow. These episodes will come about 3 at a time, as often as I'm able to make them with everything else I have going on, until we catch up with the episode before Nightmare Hospital. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Now, I do want to warn you ahead of time. I'm going to, of course, reiterate this in part in every single one of these reviews, but just starting out the series of reviews, let me go ahead and say there will be spoilers in these reviews, not just for the individual episodes themselves, but on many occasions for episodes that the episode itself sets up for further down the line, as one of the things that this show does best is including hints as to later reveals in earlier episodes. The very first episode of the series opens on Steven in the donut shop where Sadie and Lars work, lamenting the fact that his favorite ice cream treat, Cookie Cat, has been discontinued. And this scene seems really superfluous and separate from the rest of the show until you realize that it actually does a fantastic job of setting up what kind of character Steven is. He doesn't take things too seriously, and he is rather sensitive, much more than most male protagonists in television these days tend to be, which I think is pretty great. Seeing the same kind of character over and over again gets pretty boring after a while. Not to mention that television has a tendency to teach boys that it's wrong for them to be sensitive, which is absolutely not true. Having a character like Steven, who is sensitive and tough and serious and laid back all together, is one of my favorite things about the show because it's pretty unique and sends a positive message. In fact, that's one of the things that this show does great, is send positive messages to kids. So we have Sadie showing Steven kindness, which is nice. I like Sadie as a character. I've said this before. And from there he goes back to his house in front of the Gem Temple, and we meet the Crystal Gems for the first time. And without getting too deep into any one of their characterizations, the show does a good job of establishing what their mission is, their powers, and a little bit about themselves through a subsequent scene where they show Steven how they summon their weapons. Because that's what this episode is primarily about, at least at the basest level, is Steven, for the very first time, using one of his magical abilities. He's able to make his gem glow, which is the sort of preparatory step for summoning a weapon, and then later on he's able to actually summon it for the first time. And this takes place the first time during a scene where he is with the other crystal gems, and he finds out that they have gone around and gathered up a bunch of Cookie Cats from places that are slowly selling out of them now that they've been discontinued, and stockpiled them for him, and he feels loved by them. And it happens the second time when Pearl assures him that he is necessary to the group, that they do care about him, and again he feels loved by them, which is the first indicator that the source of Steven's power is familial love, or as we learn more specifically, maternal love. It's really great for setting the stage for his entire development as a character, because most of his growth does come from the feelings he has for the bonds he shares with the other crystal gems. But as of right now, Steven is still a young, naive child who can't really take much seriously, so when the centipedal attacks in its full-sized original form, he attempts to help the gems fight it, misunderstanding the source of his power, thinking he gets his power from Cookie Cats, which is adorable, and he ends up fouling stuff up, but not too bad. He does turn things around and surprisingly is very effective in helping them fight the centipedal, which kind of rounds out this story of very basic thematic introductions, showing that despite everything that Steven currently lacks as a character, he is still capable of taking things seriously and contributing to the group. Overall, going back and rewatching some of these really early episodes, I'm really not as impressed with them as I was the first time through, mostly because the quality of the show has just continued to increase as the series has gone on. Everything from story to voice acting to animation, it's all just gotten better and better. However, Gem Glow, I think, is one of the early episodes that still really, really holds up. It's a really good first episode and a fantastic introduction to a lot of the themes of the series, making it a great pilot/introductory episode. I actually go back and rewatch this episode pretty regularly and use quips for it pretty often in my videos, which is unfortunately not something I can say for the next couple. But we'll get to them pretty soon. What did you think of this episode? Do you feel like it tells us just enough to get us interested in the show? Do you wish it had been a little bit more? Either way, let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. This has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.